Two British princesses are getting swept up in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Beatrice and Eugenie are the daughters of former Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson.
History doesn't explode by accident. It explodes when secrets can't breathe anymore, when silence becomes heavier than truth, and when the people who were supposed to protect you become the very reason you can't speak. And right now, this story isn't just a royal scandal. It's a pressure chamber. And inside that chamber are two women who never signed up for this war, but somehow became central characters in it anyway. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie were never supposed to be the headline. They were supposed to be the quiet ones, the responsible ones, the daughters who did everything right while chaos followed other members of the royal family like a shadow. But now their names are sitting inside federal documents, sitting inside media storms, sitting inside a story that gets darker the deeper you look. And the most unsettling part is not what we know, it's what we don't know, and why the silence around them feels less like privacy and more like pressure. Because when you start tracing the timeline, when you start lining up the dates, the meetings, the emails, the photographs, the interviews, the contradictions, you start to see a pattern. And patterns are where stories stop being accidents and start becoming something else entirely. Two young women, barely out of their teens, traveling to meet a convicted offender just days after his release. A trip paid for, organized, arranged, and then followed by emails. Warm emails, personal emails. Emails that talked about their lives, their relationships, their private world being. Described to a man the world already feared. That's not just a bad decision. That's a decision that echoes. And the question that keeps getting louder is, who made those decisions? And who paid the price for them later? Because it certainly wasn't the people who were young enough to still believe their parents knew best. And this is where the story starts to twist. Because the public narrative for years was simple. Prince Andrew was the problem. Prince Andrew gave that disastrous interview. Prince Andrew lost his royal role. Prince Andrew became the scandal. Simple stories are comforting. Simple stories are easy. But real stories, the dangerous ones, are never simple. Because behind that interview, behind that attempt to control the narrative, behind that moment that destroyed everything, there were people trying to manage a disaster in real time. People trying to protect their family name before it collapsed completely. And one of those people was Beatrice. Suddenly, the story isn't just about a prince who made catastrophic decisions. It becomes about a daughter who tried to fix something that was already on fire and learned the hard way that sometimes stepping in front of the camera doesn't save the family. It exposes how deep the problem really goes. And the offers started coming. Media deals, interviews, documentaries, global platforms. The kind of offers people wait their entire lives for. The kind of money, exposure, and influence that could let them tell their story exactly the way they want. And they said no. Again and again and again, they said no. Now ask yourself the question that nobody can answer yet. Why would two people at the center of the biggest royal scandal in decades refuse the very thing that could clear their names publicly? Unless speaking is more dangerous than staying silent. Unless there are documents they haven't seen yet. Unless there are details still coming. Unless the story is still unfolding behind the scenes in a way the public doesn't fully understand yet. And then you look at the personal cracks, the small details that most people ignore but that tell you everything. Eugenie quietly creating distance, not visiting, not appearing, not standing too close to the fire. Beatrice doing the opposite, trying to hold the family together, still appearing beside her father, still trying to believe there was another side to the story. Two sisters, same father, same documents, same storm, completely different reactions. That's not random. That's what happens when two people know the same secret but deal with it in completely different ways. And now the monarchy itself is involved in the calculation. Because this is no longer just a family problem, this is an institutional problem. The crown can survive scandals. It always has. But what it cannot survive is the perception that the rules are different for them than for everyone else. And that's why this story is so dangerous, not because of one man, but because of what the documents, the emails, the meetings, and the silence suggest when you put them all together. This is no longer just about what happened years ago. This is about what happens next. Because investigations don't move backwards, they move forwards. Documents don't disappear, they get released. And silence, the longer it lasts, the louder it becomes. Right now, the world is waiting for two voices that have remained quiet for a very long time. And the longer they wait, the more the story gets written without them. By journalists, by investigators, by commentators, by leaked documents, by people who were never in the room but are now shaping the narrative anyway. That is the real danger of silence. Not that people think you are guilty, but that people start deciding your story for you. And that's why this story feels like it's building towards something. Not an ending, not a resolution, a moment. A moment where staying silent will no longer be an option, where the legal timeline, the public pressure, and the personal truth all collide at the same time. Because this story was never just about a scandal. It was about a family. It was about loyalty. It was about protection. It was about power. And most of all, it was about two daughters standing in the middle of a storm that was created by decisions they they did not make but will have to live with for the rest of their lives. And the only question now, the question that keeps getting louder, is not whether they will speak, it's when. And when they do, it won't just be an interview. It will be the moment the silence finally breaks, and when silence breaks, it doesn't whisper, it explodes. And if you think this story has already reached its peak, then you haven't been paying attention to how stories like this actually work. Because the most dangerous part of any scandal is never the moment it becomes public, it's the moment when the people at the center realize the truth will eventually come out whether they speak or not. Insert clip 1102 to 1114, because that is the moment when silence stops being a shield and starts becoming a countdown. And right now, everything surrounding Beatrice and Eugenie feels like a countdown. Every new document release, every court development, every insider quote, every carefully worded palace statement, it all feels like pieces moving toward a moment that nobody in that family can fully control anymore. Behind palace walls, advisors are reportedly trying to calculate the least damaging path forward. Do the sisters speak now and risk contradicting future document releases? Do they wait and risk looking complicit through silence? Do they distance themselves publicly from their parents and risk looking disloyal? Every option comes with consequences, and that's why their silence has lasted this long, because they are not just managing public opinion, they are managing legal risk, family relationships, institutional reputation, and their own personal trauma at the same time. That's not just pressure, that's psychological warfare disguised as public life. And somewhere in the middle of all this is a question that nobody can answer yet, but everyone is thinking. When the moment comes, when the pressure becomes too much, when the legal process reaches the point where silence is no longer possible, what will they say? Will they defend their father? Will they distance themselves? Will they reveal things the public has never heard before? Because people close to the situation keep hinting at something very important. The sisters allegedly feel that the story they were told privately for years does not fully match the story that is now being revealed publicly. And if that is true, then this is no longer just a scandal. This becomes a story about betrayal, about trust, about what happens when the people you rely on to protect you are the same people who put you in the path of the storm in the first place. And that is why the world is so obsessed with whether they will eventually give that interview, whether it's Oprah, whether it's Netflix, whether it's a written statement or a courtroom testimony, because when they finally speak, it won't just be another royal interview. It will be the missing piece of a puzzle that has been forming for years. Their voices could confirm the narrative, or they could completely change it. They could expose pressure, reveal private conversations, explain decisions that right now look suspicious but may have very different explanations behind closed doors. Or they could say nothing new at all and simply try to close the chapter quietly. But given how long this silence has lasted and given how high the stakes have become, it's hard to believe the story will end quietly, because this entire saga has moved beyond scandal and into something else entirely. It's about power, about influence, about loyalty, about fear, about reputation, about truth, and about the cost of being born into a family where your last name can open every door in the world but can also lock you inside a story you didn't create and can't escape. The York family story is no longer just a royal drama. It's a countdown to a moment where the truth, whatever that truth is, collides with the version of events the public has been piecing together for years. And until that moment comes, the silence will continue to grow louder, the documents will continue to surface, the pressure will continue to build, and the world will keep watching. Because everyone understands now that this story is not finished, not even close. The real ending of this story will not be written by journalists or commentators or palace advisors. It will be written the moment Beatrice and Eugenie decide that staying silent is more dangerous than speaking. And when that moment arrives, it won't just be another interview, another headline, another temporary media storm. It will be the moment the entire story finally turns.